Yes, also, I would like to remember that due to the unstable situation in Ukraine caused by the Russian aggression, we may have some technical problems, but don't worry, we will restore everything immediately. Today, our speaker is Dmytro Bespalov. He is the director of the Pro-Mobility LLC and Bespalov Lab LLC, advisor to the Minister of Infrastructure of Ukraine, lecturer of Urban Planning Department in Kiev National University of Construction and Architecture. Now, I would like to give you the floor, please.
Thank you so much. I want to start. I not very often make the presentation in English, so please, sorry if it will be not very good in sense of language. But I have a few messages in my presentation that I want to share you with. Let me turn on this presentation and share my screen. So here it is, and from the start. So do you see my screen?
Yes, everything is clear.
Okay, so I will start talking. Please, if I will freeze or it will be the problems with the connection because I use mobile internet. I have no electricity where I placed, so please let me know. The topic of my presentation is transport modeling for the restoration of Ukraine and as a product for export. So actually it's two topics, very important as for me. And I want to share with you my thoughts on these two important issues, important topics. Let's go on.
Sorry, now it's pause.
Sorry?
You have just freezed a little bit.
Oh, okay, and now?
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Okay, so maybe I turn off the video because you see my screen. Maybe it will be better for me not to broadcast the video. Maybe it will be better. So now you see my screen and hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the plan for the next 30-40 minutes. It's the context of the problem, it's the introducing of the Pro-Mobility Bespalov Lab and university where I worked. It's what is the transport modeling that everyone is talking about. It's transport planning in Ukraine before the war, forecast for 2030. What's going on with transport planning in Ukraine now? Will fix all this, and transport modelers are the new IT specialists. Let's go. So the context, after our victory, we were faced restoring the destroyed and damaged infrastructure. The transport infrastructure is critical, important for the country, and it have to be restored with a priority. The assessment of technical condition and possibilities for further limited or full operation of the damaged infrastructure will be given by relevant technical experts, but transport planners should consider the role of the objects of infrastructure in the future of our country. So we have to, separate the objects of transport infrastructure and to give them their prioritization. So this is the top one priority, and this, for example, infrastructure could be restored sometime in future, and this one in this the country is changing now, and it will be different when we win. The war changed everything, including the logistic needs, strategic, including defense directions and orientation, and we need to rethinking and rebuilding of the infrastructure. We think that Ukraine will be restored by private funds, because public funds, there is no such amount of public funds for us. So it will be private money. And to receive the private money financing this investment very well, not actually like we did before the war starts. So this was the context to dive you in, and this is the pictures from the transport modeling for your understanding. What is it? So this is the visual context of transport modeling. So it's like duplication, digital duplication of the reality. In English, it called the better word simulation, but in Ukrainian, it word with negative meaning, could have negative meaning. So we prefer to use transport modeling. But the main idea is to create the digital duplicate of piece of real world, the mobility, the transport, and then to make the changes there, like proposals, and then to see the result, what will be if we will change something. So what actually from mobility, Bespalov Lab, and we actually teach this in National University of Construction and Architecture. We teach the students how to make the transport modeling. This one. So this is the formal description of the meaning of transport modeling from the official state methodical material. But on the previous slide, I explained it in more simple words. So mathematical modeling of transport flows using specialized software for transport, modeling during planning, design, and management of transport systems. So actually, I think it's like good explanation what I said earlier. Scheme of transport planning in overall condition should looks like this. I want to show it to you because I want to identify the place where the modeling used. Transport, you see the transport planning appears because people need mobility and the goods need the logistic. So because of this, we are making the transport planning. The transport planning is based on goals of transport planning and principles of transport planning. It's like what we do, why we do, it should be more ecological or something like that. And the transport planning definitely use the transport planning tools. The modeling, transport modeling, it's transport planning tool. And then transport planning develop the materials for transport policy. And the transport policy influence on mobility and logistics. So this is simple scheme how the transport planning should work. In the transport planning in the middle of this scheme. But let's look on the situation what we have or what we had. Actually, it's Kiev before the war. There is a lot of transport problems on this picture. Now you see trolley bus that try to reach the stop. You have the parked cars, so it's they park breaking the parking rules. You see the tractor, it's dig something, and the pedestrian path is really narrow. And this is the center of Kiev, so which is our regular situation. But now I think it's even worse. In the other hand, what other countries do? You see the example of Bogota, the capital of Colombia, that used the COVID restrictions to make the temporary bicycle infrastructure. So I show this slide because I participate in the roundtable where the such organization like GIZ asked to share the experience during the COVID restriction, what the city does to make the situation better for mobility during the COVID restrictions. And what I can say about Kyiv is Kyiv stopped the public transport. Kyiv made a lot of restrictions for the passengers of public transport, but no restriction for car users. And there was no priority, no measures for bicyclists. And the colleague from Bogota shared the experience. They create this temporary bicycle infrastructure in a few days, actually. So they did it. You see, they take a part of the road and make the infrastructure for bicycles. The example what we make and what other do. So it was very impressive, and I said then that we was wrong during the COVID restrictions, but we learned the lessons, and next time we will do the right things. But you know what? We did not. It's not very good. And what we saw, like the result, we see that Kyiv once again closed the public transport and gives a free parking, and we see the congestion in the public transport. Actually, it works even now because we have the limited supply of public transport, and we still have the big demand for public transport, and we see the congestion because of this. It's obvious that in such difficult situations, the people increase the demand on private cars. So I think even during the war, the Ukrainians understood that to be independent of the obstacles, you need to have your own car. So I think a lot of Ukrainians now start and continue buying the cars, the used cars from Europe, to own it and to use it in different cases, go to work or even run from the city. And somebody thinks that it's European values to own the car. But I think the European values is the bicycle looks good picture about the European values. So it's a very economy, very pragmatic, very cheap mode of transport, not the car. And we, with colleagues, building different trends forecast, and you see the trend for the forecast of automobilization, car ownership level for Kyiv. And it's very scared, actually, because you see in 2025, in pessimistic forecast, we think that it could be 1.5 times more cars than it is now. So it all the bad situation with traffic could be multiplied almost on 2 in this year, and we think that war even makes this process even faster, unfortunately. And also what we have, if we based on 2021, the Kyiv is it's the 7th place here in the TomTom rating, but it's 2020. But in 2021 place, so you see the Bogota on the 3rd place here, but actually now the Kyiv is on 3rd place. So I'm the transport planner from the most congested city in the world. So I think it's sounds like tragedy, actually, for my personal or professional career. The question, what I ask myself, is what will happen next if nothing will change in Kiev transport, in Ukrainian transport and Ukrainian mobility, and how the 2030 will be like, how it will look. And more often, I imagine such pictures. So this is the pictures from the India. I think you could write in Google the Indian public transport, and you could see good quality service, but it's definitely not European quality service for the public transport. And if we will not things could look like this, unfortunately. And what will be next? It's the congestion will be even bigger, because it will be the only possibility to travel around the city, and it could take us 1.5 hours, 2 hours per one direction. And then what will be, we saw this picture, and it always was funny to see how they moves here. But you see, it could be our future. And for us, it will be not so funny. Because it's also obvious step. If we have the degradation of public transport, the people use individual transport. Car is very expensive individual transport, and the motorcycle, scooter is more cheap individual transport, and we could see a lot of them on the Ukrainian streets if we will not develop the public transport. Actually, I show you this scheme for transport planning, how it should looks like. But in Ukraine, I'm afraid it's look like different. You see another scheme. It's very similar to the previous one, but you see the three difference here. When we export the decisions from transport planning to transport policy, there is three strong powers that influence on this transfer, and it's any expediency, social expectations, business interest. It's so strong that in a lot of cases it could even change the export from transport planning, and even they provide something else. So in Ukraine, a lot of decisions made on this scheme, on this circle, without actually using of real transport planning, with transport modeling, with goals, with principles, and so on. So some advisors, some businessmen, some politicians made the decisions how the transport policy should look like. We have to change it. If we will not change, we will not actually win in this difficult situation. Yes, and another question. So the topic of this event is more like technical. I think it will be interesting for you to ask a question. Will the smart transport, smart mobility, intelligent transport system will fix all this? What I said, like the negative trend, should it be? Will it be the saving for all of us? I think we should divide the smart transport and the technology itself. This technological person with a lot of different devices in his clothes, and this is the smart pragmatic guy, and I really like this comparison. So the electric bus and trolley bus, it's actually the good example of these two guys. The trolley bus is actually the very pragmatic electric bus that we have for a lot of years. And the question, if we need this technology, electric bus that's very expensive, does we need it on the Ukrainian streets? It's a question. How we usually imagine the mobility for the smart city: Tesla electric car, Hyperloop, some electric minibus, Hyro scooter, I don't know and pronounce, flying car, maybe what we have, jetpack. Yes, maybe this is the future of mobility. But actually, is this a reality that we really want? I remember this cartoon about Wall-E, and the people there appears to be such creatures that use only some electronic device to move. And actually, I don't think that we want to be such kind of people, you know. But this presentation actually was prepared. This idea was prepared by me before the war, and now when we have this turning off of the electricity and we have to use the stairs, not the elevators, I don't think that Ukrainians will be so fat. But in the international aspect, it's really a question, because people use walking less than different micro-mobility devices, like you see on this picture. And, you know, smart city expectation versus futuristic city on the left and this African city on the right. According to the United Nations standards, the city on the right is a sustainable city because of different aspects. So it could be very surprising to see that not this megapolis, but this small African city is more sustainable than this one. And also I like this example, smart city, on the example of bus stop. So you see on the left the bus stop with a screen, a screen that informing where the bus will come, the LED lightning, the USB for the charging of your phone, and some other device, maybe with speaker, with solar panels and so on. It's called like smart bus stop in our conditions. But if you will travel to Europe, you will see the real smart stop. This one is very simple, but it's the shelter from the rain and sun. It has their schedule for
Sorry, but you have some problems with voice, I guess.
Yes, great. I think you understood my point. Is the smart stop is not mean technological bus stop, and the smart stops actually looks like more simple than this one. And you know, when I discuss it with my German colleague, for example, I explained him that we opened the modern in Kiev, we opened the modern bus stop with USB charger, with solar panels and so on, with such technological things. He looked at me and said that we have the salmon returned to Elba, so it appears to be so clean river that fish returning to this river. And you know what? On this moment, it was like a few years ago. I don't sure that I understood him correctly. But now I think I understood. So these technological things have to have some purpose. Why we do so? We make technology for technology or to achieve something. And the Europeans, particularly Germans, I think they achieve something very important. This is ecology. This is a cleaner, safer, better life in the cities, actually. And it's very good. And, you know, then I start thinking what actually we are building in our cities. Does we build the smart city or we build the cyberpunk? Cyberpunk is the concept from the people who make the novels, fantastical novels, with means like high tech, low life. So it is high technology stuff, but low life of people. And I think we could build such systems, not actually what we want to achieve actually. So I think we need to think about such concept. Will the transport modeling fix all this? So this is the topic of my presentation. Actually, what I said, by the way, the short answer, no. The transport modeling will not fix it. We have to have more activities, more things to happen. But transport modeling is an important step to make the transport modeling for the projects. It's an important step that we need to make. So what is the difference, for example? So you see on the screen, it is the scorecard of the decision making. This is example somewhere from Europe. So how it look like? When we decide to, for example, build a bridge or to improve the accessibility for the residents of Tроещина, for example. So Tроещина, it's if you don't know, this is the city inside the city. So this is a big city inside the Kiev. So it's like 1/10 part of Kiev. So it's more than 300,000 people live there. And they don't have the rapid transit, so they don't have the rapid public transport, and they mostly use the cars to go to the working places. And if we want to solve this problem, we consider the different options. We make the transport modeling, so we like investigate what will be the effect for different options on the indicators, and we build such scorecards. And the decision will make according to the scorecard, not according to the experience of the person who make the decisions, not according to the vision of the mayor, but it will be make like a mathematical approach. It's called multi-criteria analysis, and the transport modeling is very important part of this multi-criteria analysis. You know, I tell it to you because now we don't use such approach. So most of the decisions they're making in Ukraine, in transport planning, it's mostly the life experience of people who make the decisions. So for example, if my eyes say that we need to make the roads wider, this decision maker will make the roads wider because he think that everybody use cars, but actually in Kiev only 30% of people use not people, it's 30% of passengers using the cars to make the trip, and it's not the big amount of people actually. The importance role of transport modeling in future of Ukraine recovery, it's actually based what I said. So we need to make it mathematical. We need to exclude the subjective approach in the decision-making process. We need to use the indicators to with different weight to make the decisions, and we need to justify this money that different organization will invest in Ukraine restoration. It is very important. By the way, transport modeling is a pure mathematic, and I will tell you a little bit more on this part of the transport modeling in my next few slides. So this is the role that should be. As you see, the transport modeling will not fix the damaged infrastructure, but the transport modeling will show what the infrastructure needs to be repaired as soon as possible, and what's infrastructure should wait, and what's the infrastructure should not be restored because we changed our development vector and so on. Yes. Activities until February 24, 2022, very famous day for a lot of Ukrainians, for most of Ukrainians actually. In Ukraine, the clients ordered a few types of modeling. It's traffic impact assessment. When you have the object, by the way, it's video, let's make it show. Traffic impact assessment, when you have the building object and you want to see what the influence will be on the network nearby. It's transport models of cities and the optimization of public transport routes. So it was most popular transport modeling orders in Ukraine before the war starts. So we had the market, we have the market of transport modeling, which such kind of works. By the way, you see, this is like a cartoon, yeah? So with some not realistic graphic, but actually this is special software with special models inside, very sophisticated. When the clients or civil servants call it cartoons, it's the same like to call the drawings of engineers. I don't know how it in English, but in Ukrainian, well, kaляки-маляки. So something like sketchy or I don't know how to say it. It is not right to call such things. So this is the sophisticated instrument. It's not a cartoon, and this is accessibility diagram. It's also not the cartoon picture. The passenger flows on the GIS platform. Let's go further. Transport planning is a peacetime profession. I put it the sand here in bags because of the one case, my colleague, when the war starts, he's a good transport planner. We make a call with him and I ask him what he's doing now. So does he make the new transport suggestions, new planning decisions, how to adapt to the new conditions or to in one city of Ukraine? And he said no, he's put the sand on the bags actually. It was very upset for me because it's not what the experienced transport planner should do during the war. But unfortunately, a lot of such kind of people was doing this work. So it's important, actually, the sand should be in the bags when you are preparing to protect your country. But maybe the transport planner, the good transport planner or modeler could do some better things than only to put the sands in the bags. But unfortunately, a lot of transport planners still doing that. This is the peacetime profession. So we with colleagues, when we understood that, if we want to work in Ukraine, we need to find the work outside the Ukraine, and we write the emails to our friends, partners, and it was even cold emails to different organizations that deal with transport planning and transport modeling around the world. And it has a few important messages in this email. one of them, it's we don't need sympathy, food, warm clothes, a place in your house, or just money. We need work, actually. So we ask these organizations for work. And also we will donate 10% of any order in the needs of Ukrainian army, in the charity organizations, and so on. So we made such request. And you know what? Before the war, the chance to receive answer of such kind of request was extremely small. But after the war starts, the world was very supportive for Ukraine. And actually, we received a lot of warm feedbacks. So it was warm words, or even it was orders for the transport planning and transport modeling. And what I like this comparison. So modeling is not the tool, but it's a language of communication. And what is the better thing? It's the same all over the world. So Ukrainian transport modeler, transport planner used the same transport models, the same transport modeling instruments that it colleague in Great Britain, for example, or in Brazil, or in Saudi Arabia, for example. So the same instruments all over the world. And it's very good that we could speak on one language. I mean, not English, but I mean the language of transport modeling. It's nice when you have such kind of situation. We made the improvements in our daily work. So we became to be low-cost company. I just listed here what was made. It's actually not important. So what is the important is to be maximum cheap for your partner and give the good quality product. I think this actually what Ukrainian IT specialists make every day, actually even before the war. And Ukrainian transport engineers have everything to become the second IT specialists in Ukraine, a good school of fundamental science, access and knowledge of modern transport modeling tools, high motivation, and stress resistance. Well, let's show it to the whole world. So this is, this is a chance for Ukrainian engineers actually to prove their self all over the world, not only in IT, in pure IT field, but in transport planning, in transport modeling also. And when the war will end, when we will win, Ukrainian transport planning and transport modeling specialists with experience of international projects will be ready to make the good quality transport planning in Ukraine. So we will receive the absolutely different situation that it was before the war starts. It's actually all what I want to tell you. I hope you understood my messages. So the transport modeling is very important tool that will help to change the Ukraine during and after the war. The transport modeling, I mean the mathematical approach to the decision making in transport planning. And also it will support our transport planners and give the possibility to survive during these difficult times. Because now in Ukraine, there is more chance to receive the work, to move the sand into bags, but not to make the transport planning. And maybe, it's a fact, and I don't know, it's good or bad, it's only the fact. But there is a lot of work outside the Ukraine, especially now. Everything has changed in the world, and everybody make changes in their plans for development of transport infrastructure. So there is a huge amount of work all over the world. So if you thinking about your future profession, and you definitely want to be IT specialist. Also, I advise you to think about to be the transport planning IT specialist. There is a lot of work also there. Thank you for attention. If you have questions, I will be happy to answer.
Yes, I have a question. First of all, thank you for your lecture. It was interesting to listen. To be honest, I'm thinking about this beautiful future of Ukrainian roads, and it is interesting for me to ask, how do you think if we will take this task for later? For instance, when the war is over, everyone will start to build new houses, new hospitals, for example, and there will be no money and no time for roads. Is it possible for us to build them later, or it is the first place task for us?
This is the first place task, because the transport infrastructure, not only the roads, but the transport infrastructure is the critical infrastructure to make the support to all of this. Without the transport infrastructure, we will not build the hospitals or residents and so on. So it will be impossible. And I think it will be top one priority in the investment. And even if some foreign companies will consider the Ukraine like new center for the factories, for example, they will not come without the transport infrastructure, because you will develop the goods, but how you will transport it to the clients, for example. So this is the first priority. So, you know, this is like bones of person, of body, actually. The transport infrastructure. Without the bones, the other systems of the human body will not be able to like connect to each other. I don't know, maybe it's not the best example, but actually it's what we will have to do in the nearest future, even not after the war, but even during the war. So now when the war still going, the people from National Highway Agency now restore the bridges all over the Ukraine, because even during the war, the logistic is the most important thing. There is such phrase of American general that the long wars like the war in multiply condition wins by logistic, not by troops. So we will have to build the logistic even during the war, not even when it ends. So when it ends, we have to have the good logistic and transport system in our country.
Thank you. And also, I have noticed that you built your presentation with examples from European traffic system. For instance, those stations with smart devices and so on. And you said that expensive car, it's not European value. But I've noticed that people in Europe do not use public transport very often, and buses are almost without people. And most people use only cars. And that's interesting for me. How do you think, what is the reason for this?
You know, the Europe is very big. European Union is very big country. I don't know, the union, very big union, and it depends on country. For example, Germans really like car. For the German, the car is like the weapon for American. It's like the I don't know the names of weapon, but it is. And the Germans, transport planners, very jealous to Amsterdam, Dutch conditions, where you can imagine half of the trips made by bicycle. It's extremely hard to imagine in the city, more than half of the trips doing by bicycle. So it's Amsterdam. So actually the situation is different in different countries, but public transport, it's the important things for people to have the accessibility. So it's very important. So you actually could use the car. It's the principle of livable city. It's to make the choice, the free choice for you. But a car definitely should be more expensive. To use the car should be more expensive than to use the bicycle or public transport. So if you have the money, if you have the idea, you use the car, for example. Or if you don't have the money, or you want to make economy for your time, because on the public transport or on a bicycle it will be faster, you use the public transport or bicycle. So this is works like that. By the way, I heard that a lot of young Europeans, they don't want to own the car, and it's a problem for the car developers. Because everybody used to shared economy. So why I have to own the car? For example, tomorrow I need the car and I will take some Porsche, for example, by subscription. And the day after tomorrow, I will take BMW. Why I have to own it, make the service of all this? Theoretically, one car could make the service for 10, 12 households. So it's not necessary to have 10 cars in 10 households. So it could have one car per 10 households. It's called car sharing. It's very popular thing in Europe and the United States. But you know what we're talking, it's not the perspective or one of few years. We are talking about perspective of 10 or 20 years. Thank you for your interesting questions. Some other questions?
May I?
Yeah, sure.
So yes, thank you for your very interesting presentation. My question is, in the nearest future, can we build any new types of public transport, or is everything that we could have discovered already built right now?
The public transport or transport planning is so conservative field, and it's very not believe in the new concept. For example, all this hyperloops or string transport or some flying transport. You know, the transport planners is very conservative guys, and I don't very believe that it will change in the future. And you know, for me, the classical trolleybus, it's more sustainable, more efficient, more ecological decision than a modern electric bus with, I don't know, with a jet pack inside and so on. So in the when you're moving the people, the old fashioned devices, it's even better than all these modern things. This message was cyberpunk. You know, we could build some super technological things, but you will we will have high tech and low life, so the people will not live better, for example, in these conditions. But the short answer on your question, in the next, I think 5, 10, 20 years, I think it will be like the same type of transport. So in countries build the rapid railroad, like Japanese does, and Chinese now they doing that. Germans built maglev. This is the train that goes using the magnets and so on. But mostly it's conservative transport. And you know what? I don't know, maybe it's not good to say this, but for Ukrainians, it's a good chance to take the used public transport from Europe when the European countries will shift to electric buses, for example. It's a good chance to take this rolling stock, this transport, and to use it. You know, it's like second-hand clothing, but it's not necessarily the bad thing. It's the good ecological actually thing when we have a lot of good quality clothes to buy and to use the used clothes. The same with the transport. So in Dnipro, for example, the private operators bought the used buses, diesel buses from Europe. And you know, if you compare the used Mercedes or Volvo bus 8 years, for example, and Bogdan Marshutka, this like Ukrainian development bus, so small bus, mini bus, the difference is absolutely huge. So this is a good chance for us to use it. And I know Ukrzaliznytsia now asking for the used trains, train wagons, train cars, in Europe, for example. So maybe in 5-10 years we will have the second hand from the Europe, but it's not necessary it's a bad. When it operates by schedule, when it is warm inside, when it is safe inside, it's good actually. It's not important that they don't have some LED lighting inside, or I don't know, all these technological things. I like the technology, but I don't like the technology for the technology. And I think we will receive such kind of future. And it's good. So if you don't have any questions, thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. Have a safe and good evening.
And electricity.
And electricity, yeah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.